1995, the Mega Drive was in its final year. The Saturn and the PlayStation were the future. And then Core Design, masters of Sega's hardware, delivered something absolutely wild. Skeleton Crew. Not a safe bet, not a quick cash grab, a brutal ambitious isometric shooter, with spine-twisting sprite rotation, simulated floodlights, and a dark cyberpunk aesthetic. Ripped straight from the Heavy Metal magazine. 3 biomechanical mercenaries, 6 levels of relentless carnage, a soundtrack that pushed the sound chip into glitchy electronica territory nobody expected. The controls were unconventional, the difficulty was punishing, the ambition was undeniable. This was Core Design proving that even in 1995 the Mega Drive could deliver visual spectacles that turned heads. Today we're examining one of the Mega Drive's most technically impressive and divisive late generation shooters. A game that dared to be different, looked absolutely spectacular, and remains a fascinating piece of Sega's history. Ready to join the crew? Then let's dive in. Skeleton Crew represent Core Design's bold statement that 16-bit hardware still had surprises left. This wasn't another clone or generic platformer. It was an isometric run-and-gun shooter with unique mechanics, jaw-dropping visuals, and an attitude that screamed 90s edge. By 1995, Core Design had already proven themselves to Sega as masters of their craft. Their work on Thunderhawk, Soulstar and Thunderstrike on Sega CD showcased their technical wizardry. With Skeleton Crew, they brought the same ambition to the Mega Drive, creating one of the system's most visually striking late generation releases. This would be among their final games before moving to newer platforms, and they clearly wanted to go out with a bang, delivering a technical showcase that demonstrated what could be accomplished when developers truly understood the hardware's capabilities. The presentation is genuinely stunning. Skeleton Crew looks like it shouldn't have been running on Mega Drive hardware, yet there it is, smooth, detailed and impressively ambitious in its visual approach. The sprite work features large, detailed characters with exceptional animation. Your chosen mercenary's upper body rotates independently from their legs, achieved through clever 2-sprite layering that creates fluid 360-degree shooting. This torso rotation was technically impressive, allowing characters to strafe while maintaining firing direction. The visual effects push the system beautifully. Simulated floodlights illuminate environments with convincing lighting effects. Sprite tilting creates perspective depth that few Mega Drive games attempted. The opening sequence alone features visual tracks that rival the platform's most technically accomplished titles. The isometric perspective creates genuine 3-dimensional depth across 6 visually distinct levels. Each location maintains the dark cyberpunk aesthetic while offering unique visual identity. The art direction channels Heavy Metal magazine's gritty sci-fi aesthetic perfectly. Dark, moody environments filled with skulls, biomechanical horrors, and industrial decay that create atmosphere which stands apart from typical Mega Drive games. This wasn't colourful mascot platforming, this was deliberate, edgy, mature targeted design. The boss designs spectacular biomechanical monstrosities, massive, grotesque creations that look cobbled together from fleshy machinery. These enemies showcase impressive sprite work and creative design. The final boss transformation features cool phasing effects and genuinely unsettling visuals. Character designs embrace wonderful 90s absurdity. Spine and balanced leader, Rib, the fast female operative, the biomechanical exoskeletons and edgy names of the characters capture the era's aesthetic perfectly. Even the game's soundtrack deserves special recognition. Rather than generic rock, the music embraces glitchy electronica and dark ambient soundscapes that push the sound chip to its absolute limits. This atmospheric, environmental and experimental approach enhances the dystopian future setting and creates a genuine mood that aged remarkably well. The soundtrack conveys dread and creepiness that powerfully complements the visual design. It's unexpected, ambitious and demonstrates creative sound programming the few Mega Drive games attempted at that time in 1995. Here's where Skeleton Crew becomes polarising. The core concept is brilliant, but the execution creates legitimate frustrations that prevent greatness. The control system is genuinely novel. Your mercenary's torso and legs operate independently, allowing you to move in one direction while shooting in another. This system creates tactical possibilities unavailable in traditional shooters. Position yourself strategically, maintaining firing lines while dodging, and approach combat with spatial awareness that rewards practice and mastery. However, the controls feel counterintuitive initially. The isometric perspective requires precise positioning to hit enemies, and the rotation mechanics take genuine adjustment. Moving and shooting simultaneously feels awkward until you internalise the system, and some players never quite adapt. You've got 2 main weapons, your standard energy blaster with infinite ammo and grenades for ground level enemies. That's it. No weapon pickups, no power-ups, no health restoration, just you, your guns, and endless waves of mutants. The simplicity becomes problematic. Without weapon variety or power-ups, combat grows repetitive. Grenades prove nearly useless thanks to delayed explosions and and limited blast radius. The lack of upgrades removes progression satisfaction and could have maintained engagement. The gameplay loop is straightforward. Navigate levels, destroy everything that moves, reach the exit. Some stages add objectives like destroying generators, but these amount to shoot the glowing targets without meaningful variation. Environmental interactivity is minimal. Shoot columns to move them. Destroy slabs for bridges, but nothing deeper. 6 levels await, each accessible via a password system. You've got 3 continues with 3 lives each, making completion achievable with practice. The game isn't particularly long, but the punishing difficulty extends playtime considerably, from overwhelming enemy numbers. No health pickups whatsoever, and the control scheme's learning curve. Every level feels chaotic as you master the mechanics. Later stages become endurance tests as mutant hordes swarm relentlessly. The 2-player cooperative mode significantly improves the experience. Having a partner eases difficulty considerably, and adds strategic depth through teamwork. It's genuinely the superior way to experience Skeleton Crew. But there are some plus points. Skeleton Crew represents pure creative ambition when playing safe made more financial sense. In 1995, with the 32-bit generation thriving, Core Design invested resources in creating a technically impressive Mega Drive title that showcased what developers could accomplish on older hardware. The visual achievements deserve recognition. Sprite rotation, simulated lighting effects, smooth scrolling, massive detailed sprites. These elements demonstrate sophisticated programming that pushed the console's capabilities. Few developers attempted this level of technical ambition on 16-bit hardware during its time. The game maintains smooth frame rates, even during intense action. Only the most extreme cooperative moments cause slowdown, and even then it's minimal. This optimization showcases Core Design's mastery to the platform. The game exists because developers asked, what if we tried anyway, rather than accepting conventional wisdom. The experimental attitude, creating unique mechanics, attempting technical feats, embracing unconventional aesthetics, define why Sega's platforms remained beloved. The dark cyberpunk aesthetic and narrative, the glitchy electronic soundtrack, none of this was safe or commercially obvious. It was creative risk-taking that created more interesting gaming landscapes than conservative releases ever could. Skeleton Crew arrived during fascinating crossroads of the console era. The 16-bit generation was officially over. Developers were moving to the Sega Saturn, the Sony PlayStation, and even the upcoming Nintendo 64. Yet here was Core Design still supporting the Mega Drive with genuine technical innovation. This represents late generation software when developers had mastered hardware limitations and weren't afraid to experiment. These Twilight year releases often produced the most interesting technical showcases as teams pushed boundaries one last time. However, the game did receive mixed reviews, acknowledging technical achievement while noting gameplay frustrations. Some found the controls brilliant, others considered them unwieldy. The lack of weapon variety disappointed many, yet everyone recognised the visual accomplishment and ambitious design. The dimensional perspective creates genuine gameplay issues. You must align perfectly with enemies to hit them effectively, making combat feel imprecise. The isometric view, while visually impressive, introduces collision detection quirks and spatial confusion. The repetitive level design becomes tedious. Environments look spectacular, but lack meaningful layout variety or more memorable set pieces. Some stages feel empty with minimal navigation complexity. Objectives rarely extend beyond kill everything and find the exit. The mission weapon variety creates monotony. 6 levels of using the same blaster grows stale. Power-ups or unlockable weapons could have maintained engagement, but their absence removes progression satisfaction that could have elevated the experience. The grenades are practically worthless. Delayed explosions, limited range, small blast radius, they're ineffective in most combat situations. For a game built around constant shooting, having one weapon feel useless hurts variety considerably. The punishing difficulty without health pickups frustrates rather than challenges. With no recovery options, mistakes compound rapidly. Combined with overwhelming enemy numbers and the control learning curve, early experiences can feel overwhelming rather than engaging. The short length might disappoint. 6 levels can be completed relatively quickly once you understand the mechanics. While difficulty extends playtime through repeated attempts, those seeking substantial content may find the experience brief. But if we look at it at a grander scale, Skeleton Crew is a fascinating technical achievement, a very spectacular isometric shooter that proves the Mega Drive's capabilities while struggling with repetitive gameplay and unconventional controls that divide players. It's ambitious, impressive, and flawed in equal measure. For Mega Drive enthusiasts, this represents the platform's technical peak. The sprite work, visual effects, and the sound design showcase what Sega's 16-bit hardware could accomplish when pushed by talented developers refusing to accept limitations. For action fans, this offers a unique experience. An isometric shooter with distinctive mechanics and a dark aesthetic that stands apart from typical Mega Drive games within its library. The controls do require adjustment, but mastering them reveals tactical depth unavailable anywhere else. For preservation and history, the game matters tremendously. It represents creative risk-taking and technical ambition during an era when such efforts were commercially questionable. That willingness to experiment and push boundaries exemplifies why Sega's legacy endures. Skeleton Crew stands as a monument to late generation ambition and technical excellence. A game that existed because core design wanted to prove that the Mega Drive could still accomplish something special in its final years. The visual achievements remain impressive decades later. Sprite rotation, lighting effects, massive detailed characters, smooth animation. These technical accomplishments showcase sophisticated programming that few titles attempted. The dark cyberpunk aesthetic and experimental electronica soundtrack created an atmosphere that stands apart from the typical Mega Drive library. The fact that this game exists at all demonstrates the creative spirit that made Sega's platforms special. Rather than moving exclusively to 32-bit platforms in development, core design invested in creating a 16-bit technical showcase that proved passionate developers could still innovate on outdated hardware. For younger players discovering this through collections or emulation, you're experiencing a rare piece of gaming history, an ambitious shooter that proves late generation software could still turn heads and push boundaries. This is what happens when talented developers refuse to play safe and embrace creative risks. The gameplay frustrations are real, the controls polarize, the repetition disappoints, the difficulty punishes, but the ambition, the visual excellence, and experimental spirit deserve appreciation. Skeleton Crew represents developers swinging for the fences rather than settling for safe mediocrity. The game matters because it tried, succeeded technically, and remains visually impressive decades later. It's flawed, fascinating, and a perfect example of why preservation celebrates creative ambition alongside commercial successes. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most unusual, rare, and technically ambitious games on the Mega Drive, then be sure to like, hype, and subscribe, as we'll be continuing to do more deep dives on other rare and unknown, but yet technically impressive games that were released on the console over the years. Drop a comment below also sharing your thoughts of Skeleton Crew and what you enjoyed about it the most. Also be sure to check out my Ko-fi and other membership pages if you're interested in supporting the channel, as we'll be diving deeper into the various contexts of all of these games on Sega consoles. And remember, keep discovering rare gaming history, appreciate creative ambition, and as always, keep those memories of Sega alive.